number ones. So there is this channel, stay calm, there's this channel called Julien Michel, and he has 751,000 subscribers. I've already debunked this channel on my main channel Metatron, but today
I found something out.
To cut a long story short, this guy makes pronunciation tutorials where he's teaching you how to pronounce languages such as Mandarin Chinese, basically word by word, Mandarin, Japanese, Italian. Since the guy is French, I think the only thing he pronounces correctly is French. Given I'm getting a little salty here, his English is actually not too bad. You can tell he's French, but his English pronunciation I think is a little better than what you would normally expect, which probably created this false feeling of confidence that this guy has, which made him think that all he needs to do to learn how to pronounce words and teach it to other people is just to listen to things once on Google and then just magically skip decades of linguistic training. Now, just to give you an idea, the way he teaches you how to pronounce Italian words, I will make a dedicated video to his Italian, but the way he teaches you how to pronounce Italian words is literally a popoti papi poopy papi, a popoti papi poopy, a popoti papi poopy papi papi poopy, a bruschetta, popoti papi. Literally, this guy learned Italian from a Family Guy and started making tutorials. Now don't get me wrong, I'm not some kind of elitist who is trying to say that only the best of the best of the best are allowed to teach. All I'm asking is that perhaps before you teach something, you should know it. Am I asking too much? Anyways. Today's video is about my recent discovery that this guy has started teaching Latin pronunciation. How about we check his Latin together?
We are looking at how to pronounce the famous quote and Latin phrase attributed to Emperor Julius Caesar himself, meaning I came, I saw, I conquered. The way he would have said it would have been Veni, Vidi, Vici. Veni, I came.
Seriously?
I saw, Vici, I conquered.
Oh my gosh, I'm completely puzzled. He literally used ecclesiastical pronunciation, which is modern, but said that that's how Julius Caesar would have pronounced it. Veni, Vidi, Vici is the reconstructed classical pronunciation. Veni, Vidi, Vici is not wrong. In fact, that's the way easier for me and more natural for me to pronounce it, but it's definitely not how Julius Caesar would have pronounced it. My gosh, not to mention that all three vowels need for an extended length, Veni, Vidi, Vici. And I understand that to Italians this sounds really wrong, but that it is what it is. I mean, oh my gosh, what happened?
We are looking at how to pronounce this name that is obviously from Latin, from ancient Rome. We all know in English it's pronounced as Caesar, but how is it said in Latin, as in sort of the original pronunciation? Caesar. Caesar is how you'd say it.
Caesar.
We are looking
And he's going to repeat it again. So it's interesting because at least he does the C correctly, but he puts the stress at the end, whereas the stress is at the beginning. Caesar. I'm glad he didn't say like Caesar or Caesar, but although then again, Caesar is not incorrect, it's just ecclesiastical. But he's specifically talking about ancient Rome, and then he's putting the stress at the end. Like, I guess it's a French tendency, but it's Caesar, stress at the beginning.
We are looking at how to pronounce the name of this former Roman general. He was a Roman statesman as well. So let's break down the different pronunciations in Latin. It'd be said as Julius. The J is like an I. Julius Caesar. Julius Caesar. Now,
he still tends to say Caesar, but regardless. So, I'm starting to notice that yes, he's saying Julius. It seems to me that he has no training when it comes to phonemic vowel length. But I don't want to be like too nitpicky and just use one word, because the correct pronunciation is Julius. The first U is a long vowel, extremely important in Latin. But he just says Julius. Again, I don't want to nitpick. I want to see if this is a consistent mistake or a little slip of the tongue, which could happen to anyone. So let's see other Latin words that he pronounces. Let's see if he has got any phonemic vowel length. SPQR, wow. Let's see.
we are looking at how to pronounce the full form of this emblematic abbreviated phrase referring to the government of the ancient Roman Republic. It stands for Senatus Populusque Romanus, Senatus Populusque Romanus, or SPQR.
Completely wrong. Senatus Populusque Romanus. Senatus, the A is long. Populusque Romanus. O and A are both long. Not even close.
Former Roman general. How do you pronounce this name? Let's break down the different pronunciations. So this is originally a name from Latin, like Caesar himself. Was his first name Julius.
Wait. Did he say it's his first name? It wasn't his first name. I'll get to that in a second, but it was not his first name. Wait a second, let me hear it.
Caesar himself was his first name Julius. Yes, in Latin the J is pronounced like an I.
So he says Julius, and it's Julius with a long U and again a U, not a us at the end. But what about, it's not his first name. So not only he's not trained in Latin, but he also doesn't understand the concept of the tria nomina. So the three names, which are the very basis of Roman names. In the sense that in ancient Rome, you had a praenomen, which is the family name, such as, for example, Gaius. Then you have the nomen, such as Julius, which is the name of your gens. The family, in the sense, is the clan. This is from family Julia. So this is absolutely not his first name. His first name, from a modern perspective, would be his praenomen Gaius, which is what people would use and would refer to him, and now people would call him both in his family and among friends. Now, the nomen, which was, again, connect every single member of the family Julia, would be called Julius. That one is something that people use when they don't know you directly. And then you have the cognomen, in his case Caesar, which is kind of, usually it's connected to like a nickname or something has to do with the way you look or something you have done. This is why you have so many like cognomen that are very famous, such as Germanicus. Absolutely, Julius was not, it's not like Julius is his first name and Caesar is his family name or surname. That's not how it works. I can't believe he said that.
We are looking at how to pronounce this word, and we'll be looking at how to say more confusing vocabulary in English, including from Latin. Indeed, a word from Latin. There are two different ways of pronouncing it. In the US, it's most generally said as credo.
Is it?
Now, in British English, in the UK, it's often said as credo. Now, in Latin, originally, it'd be said more as credo, credo. So the credo pronunciation is closer to the original Latin pronunciation, but in English it's also often and acknowledged to be correct, of course, to say it as credo. Now you know it all.
Now you know it all. So let's listen to it again just a little bit.
Originally it'd be said more as credo, credo. So
Credo. So he does pronounce it as credo, both short. Instead it's credo. The first one is long. Let's check another one. And once again, I'm not trying to be nitpicky. I'm just trying to establish if he knows that some vowels are long and some vowels are short, and it's extremely important to know which one is which. So far, no phonemic vowel length.
we are looking at how to pronounce the name. Well, this verb, essentially this word,
You say name.
originally from Latin, but that exists also in Italian.
It's a verb.
In Italian, it means to live.
Yes.
And I believe it's the same in Latin as far as the meaning is concerned. So in Italian, it's said as vivere.
Yeah, that's good. Vivere.
Now in Latin, it would be pronounced rather as vivere, because
He said we were. It's interesting because finally he got one word pronounced right in Italian. I have to acknowledge him. His Italian there was actually pretty good. Finally. Vivere. That's correct. But for some reasons, as he turned into Latin, it became vivere with an Anglophone R, which is surprising.
V is pronounced like a U, so U. Vivere, Latin, vivere, Italian.
Here's another problem. So he is clearly not trained in Latin, and this is why you shouldn't learn from him, but you should learn from him instead. The difference in this case is that yes, in Italian we do pronounce it vivere, but in Latin it's not like you just pronounce the V as a W and that's the end of the day. The I, or in this case pronounced E, is a long vowel, so classical Latin would pronounce it we with it. There has to be a relative amount of length in the E if you want to pronounce it in classical. So I can see that this guy has figured out that the V in restored classical pronunciation is most likely believed to be rendered as a W sound, but that's not enough to then become an authority in Latin pronunciation and just disregard everything else. Let's find a few more, because I do want to give him a chance. I do want to see if I can get one with proper phonemic vowel length.
We are looking at how to pronounce this word, as well as how to say more Latin vocabulary and expressions that many mispronounce.
Oh yeah,
so
many.
Make sure to stay tuned
Many,
to the
many.
channel. In English, this is generally said as veritas, veritas, Latin for
Latin?
the truth. But in Latin, this should be really said as veritas,
Nope.
veritas, because V.
He literally thinks, apart from the fact that he didn't do this in Veni Vidi Vici, but regardless, he probably just didn't know, and that's when he probably recorded Veni Vidi Vici a lot earlier than he did this one. And then he figured out, oh, the V in classical Latin was actually a W. Wow, now I know. And then he started making all of these videos, and this one has two long vowels, veritas. So both E and A are long. Why Latin? Leave it alone. He literally has so many pronunciations in Latin where he clearly isn't trained. And going back to that idea of phonemic vowel length and why I stress it so much, and why I say learn, I'm not saying learn from me, but learn from someone like Luc Ranieri, because unless someone is trained in phonemic vowel length, they won't be able to tell you which vowels are long and which vowels are short in pronouncing Latin. Was that important? Absolutely. In fact, the ancient Romans absolutely tell us. They write it on top of the vowels that are supposed to be long. Either they elongate the I to make us know that this I, this E sound is long and this shorter one is short, but on top of other vowels they put a little symbol. So if you don't study phonemic vowel length, your overall rhythm is going to be incorrect, the way you sound is going to be incorrect. To give you an idea, to the ears of an ancient Roman, if you pronounce Latin and instead of saying Imperium Romanum, you say Imperium Romanum, to them it would sound like table instead of table. It's a different vowel, and it is also fundamental when it comes to both Roman literature and, even more importantly, Roman poetry. Classical poetry is all about which vowels are long and which vowels are short. It would be like one of those poems that are supposed to rhyme, but you mispronounce every single time that you're supposed to have a rhyme, and so it just doesn't work anymore. Now, considering how his Mandarin is completely unintelligible and clearly he has no training in tones or any tonal language, same thing for his Japanese, no understanding of pitch accent, syllables incorrect, long and short vowels in Japanese, non-existent. Of course, I wasn't expecting his Latin to be correct, but this is actually worse than I thought. Anyways, absolutely don't learn Latin pronunciation from him. Learn Latin pronunciation from someone who has actually spent time, possibly years, into studying it. Thank you for joining Metatron's Academy. I'll see you later.